while we all talk about recycling, mechanical recycling, chemical recycling, and solvent-based recycling, I would put in one more key: no recycling. We are working to use specifically PIR, so post-industrial waste, in a way that it doesn't need any recycling. It goes as a flake, so as non-converted material, directly back to the production process of our machines.
Hello and welcome to Packaging Europe's Sustainability Perspective podcast. My name is Elisabeth Skura. A bit earlier this year, I hosted a LinkedIn Live interview with Markus Gschwandtner, who is Managing Director and CSO at Brückner Maschinenbau. We discussed innovation in monomaterials and biopolymers, scalability, machinability, recyclates and recyclability, and much more. Today, we're bringing you the highlights of the conversation in podcast format. If that's something you're interested in, keep on listening. Welcome, Markus. Very nice to speak to you today, and I look forward to a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, good morning, Elizabeth. Good morning to the crowd out there at the screens. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to share with you our thoughts on these important topics.
I'd like to start our conversation with a broad question to set the scene. What are the biggest sustainability challenges in the packaging industry today, and how can flexible packaging help to address these?
Well, that's a great question. Elizabeth, in my opinion, circularity is the biggest challenge that the packaging industry is facing today. How to ensure that the packing materials used are staying in the loop. It also remains a challenging field of innovations for us because technical, economical, and regulatory requirements must be met simultaneously. The packaging sector is under enormous pressure in order to reduce energy consumption, but also carbon footprint and CO2 emissions. They are also under pressure to integrate recycled materials and at the same time ensure maximum product safety. So circular economy is a key instrument, in our opinion, to achieve those goals. An important focus at Brückner in this context is the research into monomaterials, which significantly simplifies the sorting after the collection and later on the recycling of plastics, as the product consists only of one type of plastic materials. We see a great potential in such monomaterials in polypropylene, polyester, but also in polyethylene films, which is our new baby, BOPE, biaxial polyethylene films.
You mentioned monomaterials, obviously, and how is Brückner Maschinenbau driving innovation around these monomaterials to achieve recyclability goals?
We have a very large focus on this innovation, and I just would like to give you two examples. The first one is we are having a unique technology center here in Bavaria, Germany, which plays a really special role in this regards. In this R&D center, par excellence, we are developing monomaterial for packaging in strong collaboration with the value chain around. And we could demonstrate several times that we can manufacture a product from a single material source that previously consisted of at least 3 different materials in order to ensure the printability, the sealability of the packing, and of course the barrier functions of the packing. And the second example I also would like to mention and highlight is our commitment in the industry, which we certainly are having along the value chain. We had our BOPE summit last year, which was the world's first platform where specifically this topics was discussed along all the partners in the entire value chain, and where we exchanged ideas on how we can possibly enlarge the industry in the monomaterial areas from the making of the materials in all the way to the recycling. So overall, a close commitment along the entire value chain. That's what I think we are looking at, from raw material makers, Elizabeth, to the brand owners, but also to the consumers, and later to closing the loop with the sorter and the recycler. Guess this is the key in which we are having our passion and commitment in.
Yes, so with the machine but also works with biopolymers. And I was curious to find out what are the latest developments in processing them, and also how viable are they as sustainable alternatives to traditional polymers.
In fact, the alternative to the raw materials today, which are based on crude oil, biomaterials are increasingly being used for manufacturing of biaxial stretch packaging films. The most successful one actually to date is polylactic acid, aka PLA. Bruckner, we have extremely vast experience in producing PLA films. They're going even back to the last century. A nice example of that is our unique cooperation, which all go back to 1999, with NatureWorks, a Canadian-based company which is the largest maker of PLA today. Actually, back at those days, we already started numerous tries on our pilot line together with NatureWorks, which showed excellent results, how to accomplish films made out of bio-based material. I think the discussion is all about the competitive alternatives to PLA today, and we can see cellophane coming back into place, starch blends, bio-PEs and others. And as of today, it's even PHA and PEF, two other materials which are bio-based and which are discussed and also used here at our pilot lines. Actually, I just would like to share also one more thing is, while bio-based has a lot of good features, however, I think one experience I would like to share is Frito-Lay. We were in large and strong collaboration with them, and we could see that by all good things, bio-based materials are still not easy to be integrated in the recycling streams we find today. So bio-based, yes, important, but what is the product built in? One, and secondly, how to make sure that the bio-based materials are coming in the right recycling streams.
And staying on the topic of biopolymers, how scalable are these solutions that involve them?
Scalability, I think, is key in our DNA as well. We at our technology center, we are having the collaboration I explained earlier. And we start by a very small extrusion unit, which makes a very inexpensive trials of stretching opportunities of new materials. Once a stretching window has been found, the team goes to the pilot line, which has a production facility, of course, on small base. And once these production facility has proven films which are in a range which could be sampled on the market, and finally it comes back as a useful product, we go out on scale to our production line. This is our usually way the last 20, 30 years, that the scaling goes into packaging, but also into technical film application. So seeding in the market, smaller production capacities, and later on going to production line. Now, usually these new type of films which are generated like monomaterials has not a large market at the start. So we are also key in upgrading of existing assets to let them run these new materials and have those smaller production capacities available on the market and go for a new dedicated machine at the next stage. So that scalability in our innovation, which we do as our daily life quite successfully.
And also wanted to talk to you a bit about recycled content. And obviously recycled content is increasingly becoming mandatory across markets. And from your perspective, how technically compatible is current recycled, especially post-consumer recycled, with existing film production lines?
That's indeed a great question, Elizabeth, because this is driving our innovation in the last years more and more. While we are continuously promoting the use of PCR and post-consumer recyclates, I also would like to share a sample which we did recently. There's a company called Pure Cycle, It wasn't immediate the last days, a US-based recycler, actually who was with us in a cooperation on a pilot line. And we could successfully use up to 40% and even more of their recycled PCR materials to produce a film which is ready to use in food packaging and labels. So that shows the R&D is going on the production lines, where we use this experience with PureCycle in order to streamline our components, for example, extrusion, to be able to accept PCR materials as good as possible. And also PIR, I think that's also a portion we should mention about post-industrial waste, which is coming back as a material, and where we are working on the ability that our machines are using as much as possible by still having a super high quality of the product itself. And while we all talk about recycling, mechanical recycling, chemical recycling, and solvent-based recycling, I would put in one more key: no recycling. We are working to use specifically PIR, so post-industrial waste, in a way that it doesn't need any recycling. It goes as a flake, so as non-converted material, directly back to the production process of our machines. By such, we could avoid a lot of energy, another production step, of course, also some CapEx involved. That might not be for all, of course, not for PCR, but just to let you know that we're working in this direction to save as much as possible carbon footprints in that recycling streams.
So, yes, I had another question for you, Marcus, all about collaboration, a big topic in the industry. So the shift to circular packaging system requires obviously cross-industry collaboration. And I wanted to hear some examples where Brückner is partnering with material suppliers, recyclers, or converters to accelerate innovation in this area.
Absolutely, Elizabeth. As I explained earlier, without collaboration, there's no way to tackle the challenge of circularity or reducing the carbon impact. I think the partnership along the value chain, and I said earlier, is our DNA since the very beginning. And I think we already mentioned our technology center here in this area is the focus where we are trying to bring the industry together to discuss all these challenges. And they come from raw material users, or raw materials like Dow, Sabic, Novachem, Total, you name it, the large raw material makers, all the way to the filmmakers, the converters, and even the brand owners like PepsiCo. We had several, and they are also publicly available, several collaboration efforts with PepsiCo in order to produce bio-based films. So in this case, collaboration is the key. And I just want to mention two projects along this value chain, which we initiated and took part of it. One is R-Cycle. I'm not sure you've heard about it, Elizabeth. R-Cycle stands for the opportunity to identify what is the material used in the packing when it comes to sorting. Because we can use nice monomaterial structures, but if it is not able to see and to identify, how can we sort it in a way that there's only PE, only PP, or only polyester part of it? Specifically in the flexible packaging, it's a challenge. So our cycle is focusing on a digital product platform, a digital product passport to be very precise, which takes the raw material information and all the way the production and the value chain and identify at the end of the day on the sorter, which infrared, near infrared devices, I am made 95% out of PE or polypropylene or whatever. And hence it can go directly in the value stream. We have been promoting that using similar structures as people do when they identify what is inside the packing. So you want to see the nutrition and all this stuff. It's a system called Holy Grail and GLSE1. We're using identical the same platform. And hence, this system is now open to be used. Our aim is we would like to have the whole value chain and the packaging industry working with this to enable a sorting of such materials more easy. So that's one. And the second one, it's a bit of closer loop. It's called Print CYC. What is this? We made a film here with our partners along the value chain. It was then converted, printed, used in a shelf, bought, and then the material came to the recycling stream, to the recyclers, and it came back to us. And we made out of 100% of this material another film. So, Elizabeth, that means film made and used along the value chain, we as consumer, they go back to the recycling and come back to a filmmaker. That would be, I would say, identifying this means a holy grail of film to film with the recycled material. Of course, there's a lot of issues that need to be solved, and we all know that recycling material will not go back from film directly to film, most likely. But anyway, it's just proof with this project along the collaboration, the value chain, that it is possible. And I think beside that, we should mention that we also work with about, I would say, 30 universities in Germany, in whole Europe, but also in the US and China, in order to collaborate on frequent questions, not only on circularity, but also on product development. And we integrate people from Fraunhofer also in our R&D processes. So collaboration, yes, Elizabeth, is our key point.
Yeah, it's always great to hear about these projects because, yeah, it's so important to boost innovation and sustainability, isn't it? I also wanted to ask you, different regions are obviously moving at different speeds when it comes to adopting sustainable packaging solutions. How do you see the uptake of monomaterials, biopolymers, and recycled content evolving globally, especially in emerging markets?
Looking in our area, UK or Europe, we could say that monomaterials are picking up, progressing a bit slowly, but yes, specifically on polypropylene and PE base. Biomaterials and the use of recyclates will for sure get a push by this PPWR, the packaging waste regulation, which is in place now. So we see that Europe will have an increasing need for monomaterials to come. If you're looking to the other side of the ocean in the US, there is a large identified PE stream, polyethylene stream in the recycling. So we can see that the monomaterials on PE has a significance already there. And by the way, in the US, it's our first dedicated HDPE Biox film line in operation at the converter, allowing them to have films on the market which has significant benefits over films made out of other production sources like blow films or so. So we can see US is so far on PE. Now, emerging markets, I would say they're lagging a bit behind. Actually, I just came last week. I was in India. There was a large conference, 2,000 plus people about sustainability. And what we could see is if we compare, we just talked about the PPWR regulations, compared to Europe, the most significant laws in place are in India. So for all, whether it's designed to recycling or whether it's recycling as such, there everywhere are laws in place. So legislation is there. But yet in India, it takes a little while until legislation comes finally to the production floor, unlike here in Europe. But I think emerging market, they're lagging behind because the need is not that high. But on the other hand, obviously lawmakers are really key, specifically in India, to come to a place and forcing the industry and the value chain to cooperate. So knowing that the demand for this innovation in innovative films like this BOPE, we just discussed about, is a starting point and will grow, we in Bruckner thought about to develop a production line, which is called a hybrid line. It goes with a polypropylene material, which is today it's about 18 million tons a year, so it's the most used one. But it also has a portion where it can run on PE. And actually, we could see that this hybrid concept is very well received in the markets. Well, the markets, where are they? Usually in Asia. And we just found out that Asia is not the one who push firmly on sustainability. However, the markets, the small markets, can grow on such a hybrid line. They can produce the standard materials on polypropylene, but they can switch for smaller batches to the PE production. And also, I think brand owners, they will play an important role, because at the end, they are the key drivers when it's about to use any kind of newer packaging material. But what also in India was just pushed out is we can have the great performance, we can have great applications, we can all do that in monomaterial, but price is at the end a very, very important factor. And we just put us, you and me, Elizabeth, as consumer, are we willing to pay more? The brand owners tell us, whatever you do, it's great, but it doesn't have to come with any additional price. And that's an issue we need to tackle in future. Legislation is one way to handle it. In Europe, we're just discussing potentially a triple of the plastic tax. That's just in Brussels, I've heard that's a discussion. So from 80 cents a kilo of waste into 2.4 euros, discussion point, but that means putting a lot of pressure in the value chain to have that topic work on. In the emerging markets, we cannot see that at all. So still price is the very dominant factor of the packaging material the value chain is providing.
Thank you, Markus. As obviously the managing director of Bruckner Maschinenbau, what is your long-term vision for Bruckner's role in shaping the next generation of sustainable packaging? And what would you like the industry to challenge itself a bit more on?
Yeah, thank you for this question. In fact, I'm a dinosaur. I'm almost 40 years in this industry. And if I may look back, I realized that these kinds of solutions, now we're talking about sustainability, it needs a long breath. So there's no quick fix. And what I mean is, what I look in our company, in our industry, I hope that in the near future, the entire value chain will agree more quickly on the sustainable materials and paths. Because I can see everybody works fine, but I brought some example before. Collaborating along the value chain is the key, and it also, in my opinion, will drive the future. And then we could also use our technology in an even more targeted manner. Because one thing is very clear, as an industry leader in that field, technically, much more would be possible today, I can tell you, than the market is currently implementing. So it will be the hope that the spark, which in a collaborating industry will move over in order to justify commercially and also from legal point of view, the use of sustainability or any other subject which will come up in the packaging industry. A little my takeaway.
So, yes, that just leaves me to say thank you very much, Markus, for being here today, answering all of our questions and sharing your insights.
Thank you very much also to you, Elizabeth, and to the crowd. It was an honor for Bruckner to contribute to the Packaging Europe Summit and also to this today's talk.